Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Concrete Jungle Chronicles, where riding means traffic, tight spaces, and staying cool in the heat. Today we're going to see how the 2024 BMW R12 handles all of that. The bike in front of me is of course no ordinary R12. It's the Option 719 variant, which means it's been factory customized with more bling and sexy accessories. Option 719, if you're unfamiliar, is BMW's in-house line of premium custom parts and finishes. So we're talking CNC machine aluminum components, things like bar and mirrors, and also unique paint schemes and other tasteful upgrades. All of which have been curated by the factory to enhance the bike's visual and tactile feel. Incidentally, the base model of the R12 retails for about $56,800 on the road, and the Option 719 variant is $5,000 more expensive. So that's quite a bit of money, but I do think the Option 719 version really changes the look and feel of the bike for the better. At the time of filming, BMW are offering discounts of up to $8,500 on these bikes. So if you've had your eye on these for a while, it might be a good time for a revisit. But anyway, back to the review. The R12 is powered by BMW's tried and tested 1170cc air and oil cooled Boxer twin. It's making around about 95 horsepower at about 6,500 RPM and 110 Newton meters of torque at 6,000 RPM. It's a low revving torquey unit designed more for acceleration and responsiveness rather than outright speed. The wet weight is 227 kilograms, and with a seat height of just 754 millimeters, the R12 is definitely accessible to more riders. To keep seat height low, suspension travel has also been reduced. It's just 19 millimeters front and rear. The wheelbase is 1,522 millimeters, so it's a bit longer than the R9T, on which it's based on. Unfortunately, the 45mm upside down forks aren't adjustable. BMW probably figured that most cruiser riders won't be messing around with preload and damping. But what they are more likely to do though is ride with a passenger and possibly carry luggage. And this explains the handy remote preload adjuster, thoughtfully located within easy reach just below the fuel tank. Super useful when you've only got 19 millimeters of suspension travel, and accessible without having to dismount. The long teardrop tank holds 14 liters, and this is adequate for a cruiser, and I'd estimate it's good for about 200 Ks before the low fuel light appears. The brakes are monoblock Brembos gripping 310mm discs. The digital display seen here is not standard but part of the Option 719 package. It's minimal but functional, and it blends in nicely without looking out of place. The R12 also runs a keyless system, and that ignition key barrel you see here actually operates the steering lock. Unusual for a cruiser, the bike also gets a quick shifter. On paper it all sounds promising, and this should be a very easy bike to get on with in the city. But how does the R12 actually perform in the real world? Let's go find out. The first thing that stands out is the engine. This motor has plenty of character. It's not just about the torque figures, but how it delivers them. The power comes in low and it's available immediately off idle. I can actually ride along in top gear at just 2000 RPM. No clutch slipping, no sputtering, just smooth, usable acceleration. This engine is so tractable. I'm maintaining 50 k's in 4th gear right now, just rumbling along at 2000 RPM. The ergonomics on the R12 are interesting. It's a very comfortable bike, but it doesn't follow the typical cruiser blueprint. The riding position is uniquely R12. For example, the seat is low. And now with low seats, you typically expect forward controls for a more relaxed posture. And while the R12's foot controls are a bit more forward compared to the R90, the boxer layout does limit how far forward your foot pegs can go. But what caught my attention wasn't the foot peg position, which feels perfectly fine. No, what was different was the unexpected forward lean. Because the bike comes with tall bars, but even then there's still a bit of reach forward. So the riding position feels quite sporty, even slightly aggressive. My guess is since the pegs can't be pushed forward, BMW moved the seat backwards to preserve some legroom. So if you're considering one, definitely take it out for a test ride. I'm easing past traffic now, and while it's all very relaxed, the front end does feel a bit light through this high-speed sweeper. It doesn't feel unstable, it just doesn't feel especially planted. There's also no wind protection, so I'm catching quite a bit of buffeting. And to be honest, I don't really feel like going any much faster than this. Of course, this is obviously not where the bike shines. The R12 is much happier slicing through city streets or cruising on country roads at a more relaxed pace. That said, with nearly 100 horsepower, it's fully capable of some spirited riding. This cruiser, after all, has a top speed in excess of 200 k's. Which does raise the point. There seems to be a bit of mismatch between what the engine is capable of and what the chassis and geometry encourage. Take the ride quality for instance. The front suspension is firm, really firm. And this is great for feedback and stability when you're leaning over. But the trade-off is comfort. When you hit a sharp bump or a sharp edge, you really feel it through the bars. And sometimes the front feels like it's skipping instead of soaking up road imperfections. I guess that's where the cruiser geometry and short suspension travel show their hand. Still, despite weighing in at 227 kilograms, the R12 feels like a much smaller motorcycle. The low seat height and low center of gravity make it surprisingly easy to maneuver. Sometimes though, an ultra-low seat height can work against you. Like, in this case, up a steep, tight spiral ramp. I am feeling some resistance here when I'm trying to turn and stay close to the inside line. I suspect it's probably that narrow 19-inch front, 16-inch rear and long wheelbase. All these are shifting weight towards the rear. Right now it definitely feels like it's understeering. The bike just wants to drift wide. The quick fix, of course, is to carry a bit more speed and lean it more aggressively. As a longer term solution, thankfully, BMW equipped the R12 with the previously mentioned preload adjuster. So this allows you to stiffen up the rear suspension and stop it from sagging further. Back on normal roads, let's talk about a few more everyday details of the R12. Lane splitting on the bike is average at best. The Boxer engine makes the bike naturally wide, and the also wide handlebars don't help. This isn't the ideal tool for slicing through tight traffic, but what does help mitigate things is how calm and tractable the engine is. The throttle response is smooth, fueling is spot on, and the engine never feels strained. That makes a huge difference. You're less stressed, more patient, and more willing to wait for a proper gap in traffic to appear. The brakes on the whole are outstanding. The Brembo monoblocks offer excellent feel and power. No complaints here at all. The gearbox also is genuinely buttery smooth. So much so that shifting into first from neutral sometimes makes me second guess if I've actually engaged the gear. And this is not something you'll ever hear a Harley Davidson or Moto Guzzi owner say. So well done, BMW. And I almost forgot to mention engine heat, or more accurately, the lack of it, because I genuinely haven't noticed any, and that's with the Boxer's heads right in front of my boots. Heat management on the R12 is simply excellent. Even in stop and go traffic, there's no heat coming off the engine. In terms of riding modes, the R12 gives you two: rock and roll. Roll is your standard mellow cruising mode with smooth throttle delivery, while rock wakes up the bike and you get sharper throttle response, more engine braking, and a bit more rowdier idle. The engine pulses are also stronger and more visceral. One minor quirk though is that there's a bit of driveline lash from the shaft drive, especially at low speeds. It's that classic clunk you get with air-cooled Boxers. It's nothing new, but something that might need getting used to. The fueling on this bike is flawless. It really is. It pulls cleanly from low revs, and the response is instant. Right, it's really coming down right now, so time to stop for tea and decide whether I should gear up for a wet ride or wait it out.
Isi ada kosong.
Isi ada kosong.
Time now for my slow speed shuffle test. Let's see how easy it is to reverse walk the bike out of this parking lot while sitting on it. No problems at all. At almost 230 kilograms, it's no featherweight, but it's definitely very manageable, and it's all thanks to the low seat. To be honest, I'm not entirely sure how I feel about the bike's car park manners, so I think I'm going to head into another multi-story car park nearby. The roads are a bit damp, and this one has a tight entrance and a steep, narrow spiral. Okay, there's that understeer again. I'm trying to stay in the middle of this right-hand spiral, but the bike just keeps going wide. I'm picking the driest patches and leaning it more, and this helps. But if this were my bike, I'd definitely be tweaking the geometry to shift more weight to the front. Even if that means increasing the seat height a little. The payoff in front end feel and responsiveness would be worth it. Going down, there's plenty of weight on the front, so no issues whatsoever getting the bike turned. On steep descents like these, the R12's low seat really inspires confidence. It takes away a lot of the stress of potentially having to come to a dead stop midway down this ramp. With that low seat getting both feet down, despite the steep incline, is not an issue. Three-point turn time. And again, no surprises. The low center of mass, generous steering lock and spot-on fueling make this a breeze. The R12 is stable and easy to control and confidence inspiring even at full lock. So, all said and done, what's the R12 like in the city? In a word, effortless. The engine is simply phenomenal. Smooth, tractable, and incredibly easygoing. It almost feels like riding a maxi scoot. It handles whatever the city throws at it without breaking a sweat. Heat management, as mentioned, is just outstanding. Even on hot days in heavy traffic, there's almost no heat coming off the engine. This is incredibly rare for a bike with this much performance. The low seat, low center of gravity and wide steering lock all come together in the R12 to make it super manageable at low speeds and in tight spaces. But the cruiser style geometry does bring compromises. Front end feel isn't always confidence inspiring, and the whole setup doesn't really let you fully exploit that lovely engine. It's also not the most nimble lane splitter despite having the engine that's more than capable of the job. That said, if you want a more performance-based, higher speed experience from this engine, BMW already made the R9T. But here's the thing, the R12 is more comfortable, it's better suited to shorter riders, and overall it's just easier to live with, especially in everyday riding. So if you can live with its quirks, the R12 can be a soulful and very satisfying city cruiser. The kind of bike that makes you take the long way home. Right, that's it from me. Catch you in the next video.